the Supreme Court definitively ruled that IEEPA cannot be used for the imposition of tariffs, but I have a feeling this is going to lead to more enduring tariffs under novel uses of laws. As you all know, we're going to see Section 122 tariffs for 5 months, but then I think the long game here is going to be Section 301 tariffs that could be in place for a long time.
Talk to us about Section 301 tariffs. How are they different from the reciprocal tariffs that have been in play over the last 12 months, roughly?
So, while all the IEEPA tariffs have been going on, there have also been Section 232 sector-specific tariffs. Those have been happening since the beginning. Those were used in the first Trump term. They were challenged in court, and they largely stood up. And so Section 301 is quite similar. It's focused on unfair trade practices and also violations of trade agreements. And so the president has incredible authority under those laws, and the tariffs are very sticky. We put in place extensive Section 301 tariffs against China in the first term, and those are still in place today through to, now 3 administrations.
So my understanding is Section 301, Section 122, these are more cumbersome to enact on the part of the administration. How cumbersome? Because it just seems like the president just over the last couple of days said, hey, we're going to go to Section 122 and 10% now, 15% tariffs. How does that play out?
Yeah. So Section 122, there's really no notice and comment procedure. So the 15%, you're going to see the president put that in place. You could see a court challenge, but given the limited duration of how long they're in place, I don't think the litigation risk is significant. You're correct with Section 301 that there is formal notice and comment, but the reality is they can move quickly. They need to invite the opportunity for folks in the private sector to comment and participate. But they can do that relatively quickly. And I think they're going to take an ambitious approach of trying to do multiple investigations against multiple countries in the next 5 months.
And I guess that moves it along. But to review here, there was a court case unanimous, I believe, and then there was a 7-4 appeals court before we staggered to the Supreme Court with the previous legislation. Is that same process in place this time? Or does the Supreme Court just basically say, get this fixed now?
So I think one of the open questions is, do we see the president look to an authority where he can make adjustments to tariff kind of on a whim based on things that happen, things he doesn't like? We may see Section 338, which is a Smoot-Hawley era law used for that purpose. If he does that, I think we're going to see similar kind of process in terms of litigation going up through the courts that we saw with IEEPA. Section 301, the same is true, but you won't see any lawsuits until investigations conclude, which could be anywhere from 9 to 10 months from now. And, the China tariffs in the first term were challenged in the courts, and the courts largely said the president has very broad discretion. So I have a feeling we're going to see 301 tariffs put in place, and they could be in place for, as I said, a very long time.
Can you see the corporations lined up at the front door at King Spalding?
Absolutely insane. Ryan, what do we do, Ryan? What do we do? How about the refunds here, Ryan? A lot of folks have been asking about that, and I understand that's not a clean issue as well.
Yeah, well, I was going to joke, I'm going to spend the next year as a 301 lawyer and a refund lawyer, because those two issues, without question, are going to kind of dominate the discourse in the next year. Refunds are messy. The Supreme Court did not say anything as to how refunds need to be conducted. So hopefully we'll get some guidance from the lower courts. But the bottom line is we need customs to also step in and kind of indicate how this is going to work. Right. You can use the existing mechanisms to file protests and things like that, but this is such a high volume of refunds that are due that I somewhat question how well that system is going to stand up.